Who do you wish you could have fought?
The only guy from my generation that I never fought was Home Lubaho. We were in the same weight, same bracket a few times. It just never happened.
If a high-performing entrepreneur came to you and they were stuck because they were winning on paper, but feeling empty inside, what's the first thing you'd tell them?
Maybe to look for the joy in the process itself and not hold your breath to the top of the mountain, because the world is as flat from above as it is from below. It hasn't changed anything.
How do we have this relentless, diehard killer instinct to just drive and crush, and in the same breath be completely content with our current circumstances?
And I think the reason why that happens is you're looking at the top of a mountain like it's going to change how you see the world, where you will achieve some kind of internal utopia where everything is going to be perfect, and that will last 2 days.
All right, I'm super stoked. I'm here today with Robert Drysdale. He is what I consider a mentor, friend, and one of the best jiu-jitsu competitors in history, in my opinion. And he also has something very unique. He's a real life modern day martial artist and philosopher. And that's kind of, I think, our biggest connection, Robert. And I just want to introduce you and just maybe let the audience know about yourself.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for the kind words. The feeling is mutual. Consider you a friend, and happy to be here talking to you and be able to share some of my experience. I've been in martial arts going on 29 years now, and never look back. I've been coaching for 25, a quarter of a century. Makes me sound a lot older than I am, but that's how long I've been teaching jiu-jitsu and training, and I love what I do. I'm very, very fortunate to have been at the right place at the right time around the right people. It's been an amazing journey.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I remember when you first came to Vegas. I think it was like 2007, 2008. It was me, you, I think Mo and Karen Diffley all having lunch and just talking about what you're going to do. You weren't even going to open up the school at the time. You're like, I don't want to open up a school. But I'm curious because you played this interesting dynamic between Portuguese and English, Brazil and the US. You said you kind of ran into the right people, and you didn't start jiu-jitsu till a little bit later. You were almost like a full-blown adult. So maybe you can kind of talk about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, despite what people might think, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was not popular in Brazil prior to Royce Gracie. It was the UFC and Royce Gracie that launched the whole revolution in Brazil. The Jiu-Jitsu revolution happened in Brazil and the United States simultaneously. A lot of people don't know that. The main difference is that in Brazil, there were plenty of black belts that came, they had retired, hung up their gis and belts, and they're like, I can do something else. There's no money in jiu-jitsu. So when the boom happened, a lot of these guys came back and said, oh, I'm going to start teaching. That's what happened in my hometown. My original coach, Otavio, he was a swimming coach. And then when people found out he was a 5th degree black belt, everyone was like, hey man, why don't you start teaching class? And this is like 95. And he's like, oh, sure, I'll start teaching class again. So we had a 5th degree black belt to teach us, which was even in Brazil was pretty rare at the time. But there were not many people teaching jiu-jitsu in Brazil. It was a very obscure, well, most people never heard of it. It was certainly overshadowed by Kung Fu, Taekwondo, karate, much like in the US. It was no different. But there were a lot of practitioners that were just dormant in Brazil. But I was very fortunate, man. I started when I was 16 and I never looked. I remember I was just visiting my original coach. And I remember standing there at the entrance of the mats talking to him just like a month ago. And I said, I remember looking at these mats and standing right here and looking at myself wearing a gi. And I saw some guys were already rolling. And I remember thinking to myself, not necessarily a thought, but a feeling, more a feeling than an actual thought. And it was like, this is it. I felt at home, like this is what I've been looking for. And it was a very rare feeling, but I knew I had found what I'd been looking for.
That's amazing. I think that you had such a blessed opportunity because so many people never find what they're looking for in this life. And they're kind of, I think shaken up by it as they grow older. So I think it's an awesome blessing. I'm curious, I watched you on a couple of other podcasts recently, and I wanted to dive into this right away because, and we can talk about your accolades and, you submitting Marcelo Garcia and ADCC and all those things, but I'm more curious about your philosophy. I mean, I think so much has changed since then. And I think you and I both agree that it's getting pretty diluted, and I'm curious your thoughts on that type of school and what you grew up in compared to what you're seeing now and what you're trying to bring forward.
Yeah. I mean, it's an old theme, the old grumpy man is complaining about these young kids, it's such an old theme, and it seems like it's cyclical because it's the same story. The liberals of today are the conservatives of tomorrow, and so on. And there's some truth to that. Sorry about that, but I think There's more to it. Like I often say, it's not a cycle; it's a spiral downwards. It is. I mean, compared to my grandfather, I feel like a crybaby. You know, my grandfather was, he grew up in a cornfield. He was working when he was 8 years old. He got his first toy, his first birthday present when he was 16 years old. It was a little rubber ball for him to play soccer because he just wanted to play soccer. But he's been working in the cornfield since he was 8 years old. So compared to him, I'm a whiny bitch. Sorry, forgive my English. But
Okay.
some of like the Gen Z type, I feel like John Rambo, like and I think there has been, and I think you can spot like technology is one reason. Life got simpler and people were less, they have weaker fiber. Life got very comfortable. Comfort became the norm. So when you're not comfortable, like people panic, like things have to be the way they want. Even poor people, I feel like, live very lavishly in the United States. I see people throw clothes away all the time, their shoes away because it has a little hole in it. I remember, like, if I had shoes, I'd put duct tape over it. Like, I'd use the shoe for another 6 months before I threw it out. But in the US, even poor people, they just throw it out and buy a fresh one. It's fresh, fresh. They need new things all the time, wearing new clothes all the time. And I was raised until your T-shirts have holes in it, you keep wearing the same thing. So I think a lot of the education has gone downwards. Like, we know that the standards have been lowered. I think reading levels have lowered a lot. Like, I had noticed this because even, I mean, the jujitsu community, like there's not that many readers now. I'm actually I mean, I would like there to be more, but I don't know. Something's changed. And I think technology plays a big part in this. And I mean, that's always been the case. The world's always changed, life goes on. Of course, people have nostalgia of how things were. But I think you got to be careful with this young, new approach. Not everything that is new is better than old, and vice versa. You have to look at, like, take a jujitsu, for example. It's closer to home. But I think this example applies to everything. We presume that something that is developed in 2026 is necessarily better than something that was developed 20 years ago or 100 years because it's new. Because we think in terms of iPhone. The iPhone 13 is better than the 12, the 14 is better than the 13, and so on. But the example I always use, and the rear naked choke is still the number one submission in BJJ, and it's a very old move. So that's not a good hypothesis. Like, we have to think, like, what determines the quality of something? Well, how efficient is the move? The rear naked choke is highly efficient. Who cares if it's old or new? It's not important. Ugly, pretty, doesn't matter. These things aren't metrics we should even be considering. And when it comes to values, I think we should look at it the same way. And a lot has been lost in the popularization of jiu-jitsu and the changes the world has undergone since the internet and social media. I think we have less deep connections with people. I know I feel there's a lot of, like, oh, I have friends of friends online. None of them are you. How many of your real friends? I see this in jiu-jitsu. It's a very promiscuous environment. You're training with one guy today. The next day, you're giving advice on how to beat the guy you were training with. And it's just like, Vegas is a perfect example of this. It's so promiscuous. And everyone's friends with everyone, right? Quotation marks. But is that real friendship? I mean, to me, like, a friend is like that die hard or ride or die kind of friend where you go, like, this guy will take a bullet for me. And I have friends like that, but I can count them on my right hand. It's a rare, and I think it's harder and harder to develop that in an environment where the relationships have become more artificial. There's a lot less community. And I think these are, like, some things that have been lost, and they're good things. They're important things.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. I talk to people about this all the time, is that, like, the suffering that you go through creates bonds, it creates intelligence, it creates connection, it creates grit. And we're trying to remove everything hard. There was a article in the 90s, Robert, and it said the average college student today lives better than John D. Rockefeller just because of technology. And that was in the 90s, you know? And I was thinking about reading. So my book publisher, she always posts all the time. And the decline of reading is tremendous right now. And it's so important. And they've proven even just writing as opposed to typing, what it lights up in the brain. And then there was another guy I saw on the internet about just talking about art in general. And it's like, oh, we can just make all AI right now. And it's no big deal. It's like the struggle that you had to suffer for 10 years to learn a skill, whether it's jujitsu or drawing, is what the journey is all about. And I think I'm scared, and I'm curious your this. I'm afraid that if we make everything so easy and nothing is challenging, we're literally removing the joy of everyone's life. Because me and you both, I know, have some friends that I don't want to talk about in Vegas, but I think the same guys where they're kind of trust fund kids. And you can see the emptiness in these people into their 40s because they've never had to earn anything. I'm curious your take on that.
I make your words my own. Hamlet is miserable for a reason. He's a prince. He never had to work a day of his life. The man doesn't have a family, doesn't have children. He has never had a job. He's miserable. Like I have a friend of mine, not a reader, just like a very like jujitsu guy. And he goes, you ought to notice that only rich people have depression. It's like a first world.
Yes.
Poor people are too busy working hard to have, they don't have time to have depression. They're too busy struggling. And I think there's some truth to that. I mean, it's a joke. It's not something to take that seriously, but I think there's some truth in when you don't have things to struggle for. I think that's when things get hard. Like you need things to struggle for. Jiu-jitsu is one of them. There are others, but I think the level of the automation of the world is something that I don't think people see what is being lost. Meaning is being lost because if everything is handed to you, you no longer have to hunt. I want to show you something. This book is largely about this. This is something I released in August, and if you get to the conclusion and the epilogue, it's about this. It's about the loss of meaning due to life becoming so automated, or you press a button and Amazon delivers food to your front door. Well, 10,000 years ago, you had to go kill something if you wanted to eat. And there was an adventure there. There was merit there. There was struggle there. There was bonds you created with friends because you would hunt as a group and you create true community. And it was exciting. And you're the hero of the village for a few days if you killed something or if because you fed the whole village and so on. And I think these things are valuable. And we lose some of that joy when you press a button, Amazon delivers meat to your door. Like, well, sure, that's convenient, but what about the hunter? What happens to the hunter within? What happens to the swimmer within? And this is why I think athletics have never been more important, because I think athletics give you that, not just jiu-jitsu, whatever you're into, it gives you that. And when I mean athletics, I don't just mean that the race where everyone gets a medal. I'm talking about competition. I'm talking about like people doing this, me trying to beat you, you trying to beat me. And I think that's extremely healthy. A lot of people frown on competition, and because we live in this time of the ethos of equality, like equality was some grand achievement. I always say that you look at a tree and there's not a single leaf that is identical to the leaf next to it. They're all different. Like there's no equality in nature. Like it's just how it is. It's just, but people don't like competition for that reason because it creates a hierarchy, and hierarchies are difficult. You have to struggle for them. You have to try hard to rank and fight and win a tournament. And if you don't try hard enough, you're going to be last. And no one wants that. Everyone wants a medal and a trophy and to feel good and be a winner, but they don't want to struggle. And I think this is why I think these ideas of equality are so popular in 2026 because they're so compatible with sloth. Like it's easy to be equal. Like it's hard to be different. It's hard to accept the hierarchy and the competition. But I think that there's something that's gained. People think that this is detrimental to the human spirit. I don't believe that. I think this is what elevates the human spirit is that you fight hard and you have a rival and you have someone trying to beat you this is so healthy. It keeps your mind busy. Talk about meaning. You get a guy across the mats from you trying to beat you and you have to do conditioning and diet and cut weight and prepare your tactics and like have everything lined up because you got to beat this guy. Talk about purpose and like this is great for the mind. It's extremely healthy. To me, it has been like, okay, I lose. So what? Try again next year. Keep up the fight. The fight in itself has a lot of value. It's not the medal. That's what people don't get. It's not the medal. It's the fight itself. And I'm critical of a lot of these changes because the things we're talking about, they have been, we're watching and we're losing them. We have like, I think they have like games at schools now with no scoreboards. I've heard recently. I believe it sounds like something they would do. So no one really won. You think you're helping when you do that, right? The people, this pedagogy of everyone's a winner. They think they're doing a good to the world. They have no idea how much harm they're doing to these children.
Yeah, I think they're doing a tremendous amount of harm and they don't know it. And I was just thinking like, first of all, hierarchy is completely and totally natural and native to human beings. It will never go away.
Amen.
Ever. And also just opportunity in general, like equal opportunity. Yes, not equality. It's equal opportunity to see if you can be equal and you're probably not. And I love the mat because like I was living in Rancho Santa Fe area for a while and all these guys would come down with their Lambos and shit. And they're just ballers and they go to Studio 540 and some 14-year-old kid on a bicycle just whoops their ass, And it was great to see because it's like, I don't care how much money's in your pocket, what you drove up in here. And this is the ultimate equalizer is the mat, man. And
it's a very real environment. It's a very real environment.
To me, people, I've studied martial arts my whole life. I did a martial art called Sansu. It was reality based. We taught military, all that. I did Muay Thai. I fought professional MMA. Nothing compares to jiu-jitsu or wrestling, but I think jiu-jitsu even more, where you can go that hard and that violent without actually really harming the guy at times. So you can actually get real life. It's the only place you can get real life. You can't do that in Muay Thai. You spar like that, you'd be knocking each other out in 2 seconds,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
you're absolutely right. It offers enough conflict within a more controlled environment, less impact. Like I agree, less impact in judo and wrestling, even though they're also grappling arts because you're on the ground. But you still walk away exhausted, and it's highly competitive. And it's emotional and it's intellectual too. Like there are different, so many layers to jiu-jitsu in terms of how competitive it is. I agree with you, man. Like this is you get to be human. That competitive side, that hunter gets to find expression. He finds a vehicle to like I get to manifest the competitive animal within, because a lot of times people try to put a lid on this and they go like, oh, this is not good. You should not have that animal inside of you. Like, well, it is. It's human. It's called being a human. When you were to put a lid on it, it doesn't work. It never has. You create sports. That's what you do. You create sports. You have this avenue now for people to be the best versions of themselves. Become like an Olympic gold medalist, become a hero, right? Because you have something that is you get to excel within the gifts that you were given. I think it's so healthy, man. When people frown on competition, I'm always like, man, I don't. I just don't like I don't understand it. Like where it's normally coming from people that don't compete or never have, and they just had a bad experience as a child, maybe. But man, if they had just passed that hurdle and stay, I think it's incredibly healthy. I think we need jujitsu more than ever. We need not just jujitsu, but whatever you happen to be into. I think jujitsu is just to your point, it can broaden. It's a bigger audience than Muay Thai because there's more longevity to it, right? But
Totally.
I think it's incredibly needed, right? In this age of automation, it's never been so important.
I agree. I was thinking too about the repression of the male young man, where he needs to integrate his violence. He needs to integrate his nature. And when you repress that, he doesn't know how to express it. And I think that's where you see school shootings and all this crazy transgender stuff and all these things. They don't know how to express themselves because they're being literally oppressed in its own way. But I did want to touch on something because I know you're going to say something on that. One thing I love about jujitsu for the audience is I can go to Barcelona right now. I can go to Mexico City. I can go to Dubai and I can walk into almost a ready built family like that. Bam. Anywhere I travel, I've never seen a more welcoming community in my life. I go down to, but sure, they might try to tap me out and rip my head off once in a while. But most of the time, it's like you got a built in crew, you know?
They will try to beat you, but that's not bad. Like they're not trying to
No,
hurt you. There's a difference. Like, oh, the person beat me up, and we people look at that like it's something terrible, and I'm always like, no, that's she's helping me. Like, that's how you help people is by beating them up. It's a very
totally.
it's a very naturalistic view on people that you would help them by beating them up. It sounds like how can that be the case? And that's exactly how you help them. You expose them. You show them where they're wrong and where they can be better. And you do that by beating them. They're going to hurt their feelings. Like,
That's the point. It is the point. I'm curious your take on what I said about the oppression of the young man today and his inability to express himself because he's not allowed to show his violence and his aggression.
I'll give you a good example. Mike Tyson and Customado. Mike Tyson was on his way. He spent life in prison. That boy would have turned into a violent criminal had Customado not understood what we're saying. And he saw that violence and that potential and it said, and I think he uses that term. This is my revenge against the boxing world. I love Customado. My
It's the
revenge.
best.
Bitter. He's bitter. He's angry as coach, you know? And then he finds this boy and he's an animal. And he says, we're going to train you into becoming a world champion, youngest champion in the history of boxing to this day, I believe, right? 19.
I
Oh,
think so.
and then Cuss did that because he understood what we're talking about. Now, if you go with the pedagogy of let's put a lid on this and let's get rid of this violent animal you have within, what would have happened to Mike Tyson? Would he have converted into becoming a monk? Or would he become a criminal? I think it's more likely he would become a criminal. Like he would have gone the complete opposite route. Like all this talent I think had these guys found a calling early on, I think we would have had a lot less. The prison population will be a lot smaller around the world. I don't think you can get rid of crime, but I think a lot of crime comes down to people that never found a true calling in their life, and they end up immersing themselves in the wrong kind of hierarchy. Like in Brazil, if you're born in the slums, the pinnacle, the social pinnacle, is being a drug dealer. It's not being a lawyer. Like no one in the slum wants to be a lawyer or a doctor. They want to be a drug. That's the guy that gets all the ladies. He gets all the respect and prestige. It makes sense, right? Now, but that's because there was a negative hierarchy that was created there. Instead of like, hey, why not become the best boxer in the world? And if you don't fail, that's okay. Look at what life you live because of your due to your struggle. These things are missing, man. Like I'm happy to have this conversation with you. I'm happy that there are still people that think this way, but I feel like we're talking of masculine values here, but it's such an effeminate time to be alive. I feel like, you know, was already, automatically the by default the villain, and it's just a very strange time to be alive.
Chris Williamson just talked about it. I think it was like 72% of women, they didn't have the best outlook on men, and only 7% of men agreed with that. And it's interesting. And I was thinking about what you said about the favelas, and I've talked about this on my podcast before or with other guests I'm saying. And I mean, my main goal at 14 years old, Robert, was to go to the penitentiary because my uncle went, my grandfather went, and that's where you kind of became like the man, right? And so I don't think people understand that if you take these young men and you just kind of steer them in a specific direction, like, listen, if your uncle's a hedge fund manager, you're going to want to be a hedge fund manager. If your uncle's the baddest vato on the block, you're going to want to be that guy. And I think that people don't understand that about human nature, and that men inherently aren't bad. They just need to be directed. And there's so much beautiful energy there. And I think that's what we're missing in society today, just to completely piggyback off of you, is how do we direct these young men and have mentors like myself and you teaching in schools and bringing them up, or even in Costa Rica, what I forget his name, but what he's doing, I think that's so awesome to take those kids in and train them. And I think the more aggressive, violent male nature you can express at a young age in a healthy manner, I think the healthier society will be in the future.
100%.
So
You're trying to suffocate an animal, and you wonder why it's screaming inside. Like it doesn't. But I think it comes down to a pedagogy that's very, very ingrained in American schools. Unfortunately, the world copies the U.S. in the worst possible ways. I say this to my
totally.
Brazilian friends all the time. Brazilians copy Americans in the worst possible ways. Not the best. Great things about this country. Brazilians don't even know about them. But when it comes to the bad things, like our problems, they all get imported to Brazil somehow. Like, why would you import those? Those are American problems. Why would you bring them over here? But they do. And this includes this pedagogy of everyone's a victim, that everyone's got to be a winner and no one gets left behind. You can't repeat a grade. As a result, no one's learning. You lower the standard. Oh, this book is too hard. Just, read a synopsis of it. Like what do you call the testing with the X's? What there's a name for it? What do you call it?
Multiple choice or
Multiple choice test.
what?
You just lower
Yeah,
the bar. You keep lowering the bar. And then as a result, these
totally.
kids don't know how to read. They don't know how to read. They don't know how to think. They don't know how to vote. And then it trickles down to every aspect of life in a republic, because it starts with family. It starts with education. The first unit is the family. The second one is school. And if they're both corrupted, like, why are you surprised that you have, I don't want to get political here, but let's be frank here, between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, I can't, it's like, really, we went from Thomas Jefferson to this. How did that
Yeah.
happen? How did we go from Thomas Jefferson to Kamala Harris and Donald Trump? Something happened, man. Like, you can't tell me that this is a healthy republic when those are our options. Like, something happened, and what happened? And I think it starts with the schools, family first and school second. And something is broken along the way. Something isn't working.
I think it started personally, and we don't have to even dive into this, but if you want to, is just the household income. I think when you started to remove the mother from the home and break all that down, you created a situation in which was kids being raised like latchkey children and just not having real parental guidance. It just created a totally different dynamic. And I know that there are listen, I am all for equality and women be able to make choices and do things like that. But when you remove the main caretaker from the home, I think it changes the whole dynamic.
The problem started when, and I don't know when this started or where this idea comes from, that being a CEO ranks higher than being a mother. And that's very strange to me. I think being a mother is the most important job on the planet. I don't mean a job in the technical sense of the word, but in the broader, like your role as a
It's the
human.
toughest job.
It is the toughest and most important, the most important. Like, I mean, a mother is infinitely more important to society than a CEO. But like, at some point, people have been convinced that being a mother is like below you. That's like, oh, that's a shitty job. That's not important. Like, that is the most important job. And yeah, and I'm with you. I'm all for freedom of choice for everyone. But at the same time, there are consequences to this. I got married recently, and my wife,
Congratulations.
she's from Kazakhstan, Central Asia. And one of the first conversations we had early on when we were talking was how she wanted to be a mother and a wife, and she wanted to quit her job and just work for the family. And like, that was just like major green flag. And I'm like, amen, that's what I want. I want a happy family. What's wrong with that? But that is frowned upon. Like, her friends would try to talk to her, like, no, you have to keep your career. And I'm like, for what? I mean, I don't know, man. There's a cost to that. I agree. I think the family unit has been severely damaged in the West. I can't speak for other countries, but in Brazil and the United States, especially in the United States, even more than Brazil, it's almost like non-existent. You know what? Like when I was visiting her family in Kazakhstan, her parents, I can't remember if it was her mom or dad or someone of her friends. It was someone, I can't remember who, but asked me this question: is it true that in your country they have hospices, or not hospice, like assisted living?
Right?
And then I was like, that was the first time I never thought about that because their grandma lives with them and she has dementia, but they take care of her because that's what you do. And then to them, it was like kind of like almost like absurd. Like, you guys really let your parents just rot. And I'm like, man, that was terrible that we do that. I never considered it. Right. And it's each their own. Some people might have circumstances where this is necessary. But there's something wrong there. There's something that doesn't sit well with you. These people take care of you their whole life. And now that they need you, you're gonna just drop them off and say goodbye. Like, I don't know, man. It's something's been lost.
You know, I think you said basically you said repercussions are like trade-offs, right? Like everything's a trade-off. And I think what people don't realize is like, sure, like you have two daughters. I'm sure if they wanted to be whatever they want to be, you want to encourage them. But I think in the same token or same boat is you kind of think there is a trade-off to that. Sure, awesome. I want this female to be able to do whatever she wants in her life. And also, if we have no mothers at home, what does that do to society as a whole? And what you start to realize is men, I think, even look at society as a whole a little more than women and realize like we've created this whole infrastructure thing. And women's job is to help with that infrastructure in different ways. And if we split that off, we are seeing the repercussions. Like, I don't know what the next 20 years are going to be like, but it's not looking good. I can tell you that. And the US as a whole is falling off, and other places are rising up because they have that family cohesiveness.
Well, they function well within. There's that the fam. I again to your point, it starts with the family. Man. If that isn't working, you can't expect any other aspects of society to work. Like if the
I
family,
agree.
it starts with the family, and this is something that's been completely abandoned. The focus goes. I used to be highly. I still, follow politics. I read, but I'm not political as a person anymore. I've abandoned most of my positions. And the reason being is like at some point I realized like it doesn't matter what party's in power. If the family unit isn't working, it really doesn't matter. The country's not going to work. You can put the most competent people in power. It's not going to make a difference, man. The country's not going to work where moms and dads aren't like doing their job. And I'll give you another one, man. And I deal with this all the time. I deal with parents all the time. Some of people don't know how to be parents. They don't discipline their kids at all. Zero discipline. The kids have zero respect. So they bring them to jujitsu so I can do their job for them. Like, okay, I'll
Cool.
do my best. But they come in. You think they let me do my job? They don't let you do your job. The second if you can't say anything, the kid that does whatever they want, there are no repercussions. And then if you say anything, oh my God, you can't talk to my child like that. I'm like, do you see how your child is talking to me? And I presume that he does the same thing to you. My dad's a school teacher. Okay. Like he's got nightmares on the stories he tells me. I'm just like, he's retiring now, fine. And I'm like, so happy that he's retiring because I feel bad for him because he's such a good, kind-hearted human being. Like, he doesn't deserve to be treated like that. But there are no cons. You can't say anything. You can't do anything. You can't approach them. They can't fail a grade. They can't. They're these perfect little angels. They can't be called on anything. And then they grow up to be assholes. And I don't know what people think. I don't understand this pedagogy. I don't understand. You think that the day they turn 18, they're going to turn into solid citizens. So you raise them to be these little entitled little shits their entire lives. And the day they turn 18, they're going to turn into mature adults. You really, truly believe that? Like I saw,
I think that's the soft feminine approach.
it's exactly what it is. It's an effeminate world. And then people say that it's a man's world. I'm like, I don't know what world you guys are living in. These are all feminine. These are very like effeminate values now. Like you just feel sorry and you give them another chance and poor kid, poor kid. And there's a place for that in the world. I'm not neglecting the role of
Of
love
course.
and compassion in the world, but there must be what Nietzsche called an economy of compassion. He uses that term, and he's not against compassion, but an economy of compassion. You just don't give it away all the time for free. Like no, no, no. Because if you give it, that's the other thing. Give it away to people that don't need it. When you're not going to have any left to the people that actually do need your compassion. So I do believe that it should be an economy of compassion in these things. You don't give it away for free all the time. Do you deserve it? Do you need it? No. Then okay. So what you need is study harder. Oh, I can't read this book. Try again. Try again. Try again. So you figure it out. Or I can't win this tournament. Well, what are you going to do, man? Like, and it's this idea that if things are easier, things will be better. And Mark, we're watching it happen. It doesn't work.
It's completely obvious. I even think when you look at some of the women, like, I don't understand why the guys are like this today. Why can't I find any men? Where's the real men in the world? It's like, this is what you created. I mean, you have, what is it? I think 80-90% of psychologists and school teachers are all female, and I think that I remember that now I'm going back 20 years ago when I was teaching at No Rules down in Henderson. These parents, the kid would start crying, and this is 20 years ago. I'd be like, nope, get off my mat. Don't you stay right there. And I wouldn't let him on the mat. And the kid would cry. I'm like, nope, let him cry. You probably can't do that today. But I wouldn't let him on the mat. And I also was a small school. I knew every parent. I was like, nope, let him cry. Because how are they going to learn? And don't get me wrong. I know, I agree with you. We need love. We need compassion. But I'm going to start using that, the economy of compassion, because it's not for free. You just can't give it away and expect that you're going to have any respect for it.
And
You know?
yeah, and I've experienced this. Like, I used to be a lot more giving when I was younger, but you get so burned by that too because you get to people that don't deserve it, and that burns you. And all of a sudden, you don't want to give it to anyone. And like sometimes I have to ask myself, remind myself to be more compassionate because that's how I used to be. So it's almost like sometimes you swing the other way, and there's a balance in these things, and where there is a time and place to pick up a child that hurt itself and say, "Come here, baby," and give it a hug. But there's a time and place to
Totally.
say, "Well, cry me a river. Those are crocodile tears. I know what you're doing." Like, and I say, I have kids. Man. I have kids. It's something about little girls crying. They just like they trigger something in your brain. You immediately want to help them and feel sorry for them. But a lot of times you're actually like, wait, hold up. Are they fed? Yeah, they're fed. Are they in the rain? No. Are they cold? No. They're sheltered. Like she's complaining about cleaning her room. Like what, that does not warrant crying. Like she's trying to manipulate. So there's an element of manipulation in the crying and feeling like a victim because a victim is immune to criticism. A victim gets perks. Is you can't criticize. You can be a victim and still be guilty of something. These things are not mutually exclusive. But when you cry, you like, oh, okay, I am you put this cloak of victimhood on. It's like, oh, no one can call me on anything now because I'm crying. So it's almost like the softness has become like some kind of virtue. Whereas we're talking more masculine values, that would be, I mean, your grandpa would frown on you. You men don't cry. I mean, I cry all the time.
Totally.
If I'm sad, I cry. I'm not one of those that hold back tears if I'm happy. So I've had students of mine win world titles and I cry. I have tears of joy, but it's you cry for good reason. You're not crying because your parents asked you to clean your room or, something like that. But there's a lot, man. There's a lot that's going on with wrong with education.
I agree. I think they need a little more tough love. I think a little more tough love, and they need to realize that children are master manipulators.
Master. I remember my daughter when she was 2 years old. She would like walk up to me and say, "Daddy, one more cookie." And then I go, "No, you already had one." "Daddy, one more cookie, please." And then she leaned and kissed on the nose, and I was just like, and I know what she's doing, but it works. She was like 2, 3 years old, and she's manipulating me, and they just get better at it. Kids just get better and better at it. But to your point, tough love is real, though. And you know why tough
Totally.
love is not popular? Because it's hard. It's difficult to give tough love. It's easy to give the soft love where you go have everything you want. There's perfect because you can wash your hands clean and go, I don't have to raise you. I don't have to train you. I don't have to educate you. I can just wash my hands clean. Hey, here's your iPad. Yeah, you don't have to go to school. No, you got bad grades. That's fine. You give them everything they want. And this like, oh, children need to be children. They need to be happy and free. And really the real reason is that you don't have the courage and the mettle to actually raise your kids the way you should, because that's way harder than just giving them an iPad. And I know this. I'm
I
not
think
saying I'm a perfect parent, bro. I have many flaws as a parent. But like I'm pretty sure that I know the difference between good parenting and bad parenting, especially as a martial arts coach. I've seen both.
I think it's really challenging to handle your own emotions. It is harder on you to tell your kid no than it is on the kid. And you don't want to feel bad. And you want the kid to love you. And it's the same thing with your buddy. It's like you don't want to bother your buddy, but like, bro, get your ass in the gym. What are you doing? What's wrong with you? You got this beer belly or whatever. And people don't want to do that. And that's somebody who really cares about you, who really says, hey, man, you're going down the wrong path. You're not showing up the way you should. You're not coming to class. You're not training with us. You look like shit. What are you doing? I think that's someone who really loves you.
Yeah. No, I mean, as a coach, you're from Vegas, so you probably heard this. Like I have like a reputation for being authoritarian and like all these things. And I can be difficult to deal with only if you have this mindset that we're criticizing. Like as a coach, you win a tournament. I'm going to walk up to you and tell you what you did wrong. I'll congratulate you. I'll give you a hug. I mean, I've shed tears over students winning big events. Okay? So I'm very emotionally involved, but I'm still going to sit you down and tell you what you did wrong. Like, oh, Rob, how could you do that to someone? I'm like, well, because I care. How do I help you if I'm not telling you the truth? Oh, but I don't want to hear it. Well, that's the issue. Then it's not me telling you the truth. The truth doesn't have an issue. Like the truth is the truth. You have a problem. The truth hurts my feelings. Your feelings need to adjust to the truth. And that's the problem, is that these guys are this ideology of adjusting the truth to my feelings. It's delusional.
Totally.
It's a case
Because truth is truth.
on mental illness. It borders
I
on,
agree.
oh, you can't be serious that you want the truth and the facts to adjust to your feelings. right? It's incredibly dangerous because we've got to remember feelings aren't all necessarily good. Hate is a feeling, anger is a feeling. These things like you're not in control of your feelings at all, as an adult should be. This is not. It's incredibly unhealthy.
I remember I trained at your school for a little bit. I remember the way you taught and trained, and I think it's healthy. I remember even telling some guys sometimes I was like, funny thing about Robert is he doesn't give an inch, and you could be like a blue belt, and it doesn't matter because he's just going to push at you. And most guys like, oh, just let him play and flow. And I'm like, and it was different with you, and I remember that specifically. I actually want to kind of rotate into the training a little bit. You trained a lot of guys that are considered some of the best guys in the world, and I've watched you on the mat with them, just kind of murder them for lack of better words. And I'm curious how that worked out when you were training with some of these high level UFC guys and different guys, and how the ego played out. Was there ever any like real battles there? Or it was just you were really respected for your craft and they realized that's why they were there training with you.
Man, I needed training partners. I was a rookie in MMA. When I moved to Vegas, I had my jujitsu accolades, but nothing in MMA. I've never been punched in the face in my life. I was criticized for doing an amateur MMA fight, but I'm like, I've never been hit in the face, and everyone can say they're tough, but I've seen many guys who believe they were tough, break the second they get hit. Tough guys,
Totally.
on the
Totally.
surface at least, So I don't know. I don't know myself that well. So, but when I immersed myself in that world, I sort of became, it was a weird situation. I cornered myself and I painted myself in a very strange corner. I came to Vegas to fight MMA, but right away, people started asking me questions. I had just won the ADCC world title and everyone's like bombarding me with questions. And I love to teach. At heart, I think I'm more of a coach than a fighter. I never had expectations for myself as a fighter, but I always had expectations for myself as a coach. Even though I'm probably not known as a coach, I'm more known as a fighter or a former fighter. But these guys are asking me questions, asking me to corner them. I'm like, yeah. So I'm cornering UFC title fights before I made my MMA debut. Now, typically,
It's
you
crazy.
accumulate 20, 30 MMA fights, you retire, and then you begin your career as a coach. And then you climb your way till your students are, fighting for a UFC title. I was cornering UFC title fights when I was 0-0, so I was cornering guys and training simultaneously. So we had a relationship where, like, Forrest is a good example. He was my main training partner for 12 years. And I won't say I was like, I was sort of like a coach to him, but our relationship was somewhere between coach and training partners because he helped me too. It was almost like it was not that hierarchical sort of relationship. And that existed with other people too. I had that with James McSweeney too, where I helped him with jujitsu. He helped me with kickboxing. And it's not ideal, even though these bonds are very important and they still are good friends and their bonds are important. I believe that what works best is a hierarchical structure, military like. People don't like it because it's hard and boring and difficult, but basically what they do in collegiate wrestling, it works, man. I don't care what people say, it's what works. No, and
Totally.
it doesn't matter. I mean, it can be fun and it kind of doesn't have to be brutal all the time. It can be healthy. But I think that the coach, but that top down structure at the end of the day does work better.
I'm curious how your training was with Frank. I know you trained with Frank for a little bit too for some of the title fights and things like that.
Frank was a good friend. He's still one of my best friends, and I was his coach, but I learned a lot from him too. So it was and a training partner. So it was a similar relationship. We're still good friends, man. Like I'm happy to see his daughter thrive in wrestling and jiu-jitsu now. We always had that sort of relationship where we helped each other out. Always been a He was a great training partner. One of the most gifted people I've ever met in my life, hands down.
Yeah, he definitely had that small man jujitsu, but I think both of you did, training under Leo Vieira and then also him. I think it's just interesting. I'm curious. I just want to touch on one thing selfishly in the jujitsu world. I'm just curious about your road to ADCC and you basically submitting one of the best grapplers of all time, who is my favorite grappler in the world, is Marcelo.
Mine too.
Is he? I'm sure. I mean, like everybody talks about Gordon and all that, but I mean, to me, Marcelo is just the best ever. I just love the guy.
There are very few people in jiu-jitsu. I mean, for example, you can point out people that have won more titles than Marcelo. You can point out people that have beaten Marcelo, right? Like Shisha has more world titles. Roger is hands down the most dominant guy in history, right? Bia Mesquita has an insane amount of titles. Bia Mesquita has more titles than everyone put together, bro. Like, her amount of world titles and national titles it's just insane. But I think when it comes to that, and soccer, I'd compare it to, I don't know if you follow soccer. I'm a big soccer fan. Ronaldinho. It was just like, there are guys that were like Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo won more than him, sure. But there was just something beautiful about watching play that everyone just been like, oh man, it was like art. And Marcelo is one of those guys. Rafael Mendes is another. I love Rafael Mendes. He's got such the precision. Mika Galvão is the other. Like they just have this finesse about their movement that is just so beautiful to watch. I never had that, man. I had grit. I had heart. I had aggressiveness. Like that was my weapon. It was not finesse. It was not precision. It was not athletic ability. It was aggression, right? It was heart and grit. Like that was my power. When it comes to guys like Garcia, man, it's like ballet, man. It's just the timing and the finesse of the movement. It's very hard because like you can move, you make a move and you're like clumsy about it. It's, and like, it's like a guy with a sniper rifle that hits the bullseye every single time he fires that shot. Whereas for most guys, it's like you have like a machine gun and you spray and you hope that one of them hits the bullseye. Well, that's me. That was me. I was the machine gun guy. Like, and some of these guys are just like snipers, man. They're just boom every time on the dot. You're like, how do you move that well?
Dude, he's the best. I loved
Dude,
him.
I love to watch high level jiu-jitsu. There's so many great guys these days. I'm always impressed, man. Like if you watch the kids, if you want to find a high level jiu-jitsu, watch.
Bro, it's insane.
I've seen 14-year-old matches, 14-year-old kids at the last ADCC trials. They look like high level black belts. Like I can't imagine where these kids are going to be in 5 years.
Crazy.
And
I look at Kai from Cobra Kai and Shai, who's now at 10th Planet. I'm like, just, what is going on? I do have a question for you. I'm really interested in. You already said Marcelo was your favorite. Who do you wish you could have fought? Like one fight I always wanted to see, I don't think it ever happened, was you and Rafael Lovato. But I'm just curious.
it did happen.
What? It did happen.
Yeah, Lovato beat me twice in the team division.
In the teen division. Okay, but that's
0-2. I'm 0-2 against Rafael Lovato. Bastard.
Dude, he's a beast. Did you see he's like wrestling now and he just won?
I don't know how he can mark. I don't know. Every time I see him, and if he ever watches this, he will confirm. I congratulate him because I think he's a little bit younger than me, but not by much, maybe a year or two.
Yeah.
But he is. Man, it's incredible. Him and Cyborg. I'm like, when they're doing this, I'm like, I can't. I don't know how you guys do it, man. Because I'm same age as Cyborg, and I'm like, I'm falling apart, man. I have arthritis all over my body, and I'm tired too, man. I'm tired of running sprints. I'm tired. I love the art. I love coaching. Don't get me wrong, but when it comes to all grinding every day and preparing for a competition, man, like I got so many miles on my body, man. Like I just want to preserve them so I can age well. I just want to drive all those miles with care. I admire them deeply. Right? The only guy from my generation that I never fought was Romulo Barral. We were in the same weight, same bracket a few times. It's just never happened. Everyone else from the list of people, like I was just thinking about this the other day, because a lot of people tell me like, oh, jiu-jitsu now is harder than then. And I go, there are more people, but there are also a lot more tournaments, which means you guys don't fight each other as much as we did. Because back in the day, there were like, ADCC, IBJJF Worlds, PANs, and Brazilian Nationals. Those are the four big ones, really. And ADCC was every other year, and most people didn't make it there anyway, because it was like more boutique, right? It's like a closed, like 16-man bracket only. So what happened is but because there were only so few tournaments, and Marcelo Garcia is the one that made this point to me when I was talking to him a while ago. He said, Rob, I fought Terere, who was the other best middleweight in the world at the time, 4 times my first year as a black belt. And that's true. Like these guys would fight each other. We would fight like every tournament. You had a bracket. Like that was just insane because that's where all the best guys were. Now you have these exclusive contracts. You have so many organizations. You have the gi and the no gi, completely different, separate worlds, unfortunately. It's like you don't see the best fighting the best. Like when are we going to see Mika Galvão and Tainan Dalpra? When are we going to see Cade Tolo and Mika Galvão? Like I want to see these matches. Like why can't I want to see them all the time? I want to see them 4 times a year, but we're not seeing them ever. I want to see Baby Shark and Mike Musumeci. Why aren't we watching that? That match should be taking place 4 times a year. Back in the day, Mike Musumeci would have fought Baby Shark like 5-6 times by now, and we haven't seen it happen.
Crazy.
Right. So the best are not fighting the best. Like I had 3 years as a black belt where I competed actively as a black, 3 years only. I was very shortly. My black belt career was very short because I moved over MMA at the second I won the ADCC. But look at the guys I fought. I fought Roger Gracie, Ronaldo Jacaré, Alexandre Ribeiro, Braulio Estima, Cyborg, Andre Galvão. Dude, like just the list goes on. And like some of these guys, some of the best guys of my generation, they were all in your bracket. If you want to be a world champion, it had to be 2 or 3 of those names. That's insane, man. Like, how do you beat 2 or 3 of those names? But that was the bracket. You had 2 or 3 of these names in your bracket.
I remember the first ADCCs. I was like, look at this lineup. Like it was insane. Just the guys out there is awesome.
And the level is super high now, Mark. But what people don't understand is that it's gotten so dispersed. Like even the last ADCC, like with a CGI thing, the best no-gi grapplers in the world got split. Half of them went one way, half the other. As a spectator, man, that kind of ruins the show a little bit. And I know I'm not blaming anyone for it. It is what it is. But at the same time, as a spectator, I'm like, this sucks, man. I want to see the best fight the best.
I wonder if it'll play out better. Well, maybe we'll have some really big super fights. We're like, hey, let's get Baby Shark and Musa Messi together and do a big whole thing. I mean, I'm just talking about the game, the game,
But
but it'll be
guys
interesting.
will have the problem. These promoters, their businesses, like, so they're going to have to find
Yeah,
enough compatibility, and that's going to be hard. Where they can reach an agreement, knowing that their champion might lose to their rival's champion, right? Like,
totally.
there's a lot on the line here. So the more money comes into the sport, I think that the less likely these things are to happen, because the fighters too, they become sort of like, I'm not, no, not all of them, but a lot of them become like prima donnas.
Yeah, of
Like a lot of
course.
these guys, she's like purple belts that won't compete unless they get paid. I'm like, who do you think you are? Like, you have to get paid. You've been training for 5 years. You're a beginner. Like, I'm a purple. I'm not, like, like local tournament champion. And they won't compete unless they get, I'm not going to do IBJJF because I have to pay to compete. I'm like, oh, sorry, purple belt. Like,
Welcome to the game, bro.
but it's such a, there's something arrogant about that too. Like,
Totally. I agree.
I never made any big money from fighting. I've been paid before, but always like nothing that would change my life. Zero regrets, man. I have my medals and that's enough. I have my memories. I have my perspective and my experience. I have no regrets. When I see these guys complain about money, I'm always puzzled. It's never been better. People never complain more. That's the interesting part. My generation, it was
Dude,
zero money. No one complained. No one complained. Everyone just
dude,
competed.
I made $250 to fight Jason Miller. Mayhem.
Man,
Like $250. It's like people don't, and that was an MMA fight. I think people don't realize like Mike Tyson said it best. He goes, I was a killer. He goes, you guys are just here. What did he say? He goes, you guys are just here for the money. And
yeah,
it's really the truth.
yeah.
Just a different world. Yeah. I could dive into some of this, but I want to actually switch gears a touch. And I just want to kind of talk about your philosophy. You are kind of, in my opinion, the philosopher of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. At least that's how I see you. And I'm curious, you wrote 2 books. I know the first one was controversial. I did not know much about the second one, so I apologize. I'm curious if you can elaborate kind of just on some of your wisdom or theories. Like, you just shared something really amazing with me that I had no idea, which was that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was nothing until it came to the States, and it blew up at the same time. I didn't even know that. And I think a lot of people don't know. And what was kind of your maybe mission in writing the books, or what did you want the world to know? Or if you could just share a little bit so, maybe compel us to want to go read them.
I released 2 new books last year in August. So I have 4 jiu-jitsu history books out. I'm working on another one. Um, I motivations, Mark, are not easy to determine, man. Like, we think our motivations are always noble. And sometimes they are, but that doesn't mean that they don't coexist with other motivations that are not so noble. I do love history. I was, my dream as a child was to be an archaeologist, not a fighter, not a coach. I've been reading encyclopedias since I was a child. I've had a book with me since I could read. Always read. I've never not have been reading something. I'm always reading something. Always. Since I learned how to read. I love books. I've always been that way. I do think it's a great story. I enjoy writing. I enjoy discussing it. I don't deny that there's a degree of vanity in it as well. I think that writing in general is something, there's something vain about it. Like, why is my idea important? Like, what makes you think that my way of thinking, or what do I even have anything to say or an opinion that can educate someone? There's something presumptuous about it when you really think about it. And I don't think it's necessarily bad. It's not, certainly not unethical, but it's definitely something you have to monitor. And I've caught myself, like, sometimes it can go to your head and you start thinking that because you spend so much time thinking about these things and writing about these things and reading about these things, and you know that most people don't do that. It's very easy to get carried away and say, oh, I got it all figured out, or start putting yourself on a high horse that you don't belong to, because I still have a lot to learn. I'm still learning. I'm not done learning. So it's very important that we couple our ambition with humility. There's an author I like. This is one of my favorite books of all time. I've read it times cover to cover, and that's within the last like 2 years. So it's probably something I'll read and reread my entire life. It's called The Faith of a Heretic by Walter Kaufman. And he coins this term called ambition. He's talking about exactly about this. It's humility with ambition. Ambition is a good thing, but it needs humility. And I love that because I was exactly in that phase of my life where I started looking at myself in the mirror and not liking some of the things I was seeing. And I was like, wow, you got to be more humble. You've got so much to learn. And we are so ignorant as humans. We're born ignorant. We're born with enormous potential, but we're born ignorant. It's enormous effort not to be ignorant. And it's easy to forget that. So when it comes to jujitsu history, man, I try to remind myself that I still have a lot to learn and a lot to do. I mean, I don't own the truth. I might be wrong about many of these things. I've changed my mind on many of these things, and I'm willing to change my mind. I'm always suspicious of politicians who change their mind come election time or because the political winds have changed direction. But in general, I think that changing your mind is something healthy and you should be open to it and open to being wrong. And I have been wrong. I've been proven wrong many times. In fact, my best friends are the ones who correct me. My best my I have readers who write me and correct me on something, and they end up becoming good friends of mine as a result because that's the kind of people I like to surround myself with, are the people that aren't scared of calling me on my bullshit or pointing me wrong or correct me or have the knowledge, the know-how, the wisdom to point flaws in my arguments. And I have friends like that and I love them for it. And I think that's the kind of humility we should be pursuing.
455199. I feel like the whole humble piece is like, it's this blend between ambition. Like, how do I have this incredible amount of ambition and then match it with absolute humility at the same time? And it's something I've been playing with. The book I'm writing, I'm not going to call it the dichotomy of everything, but it is based on that paradox. And I think that when I think about what you said, I think to me, that is the ultimate level of achievement when it comes to being a human and trying to blend those balances is how do you have a relentless, incredible drive to be an ADCC world champion and still walk out of your front door and be happy with the sun shining and a cup of coffee and that simplicity. And I think when a man can do that, it reminds me of Rudyard Kipling's If, right? That poem of just that
Remember
balance.
reading?
I think
Yeah, vaguely.
phenomenal, phenomenal. But just that is the point. He's like, if you can just kind of if you can be with the common man and then walk with royalty, and if you can, win a jiu-jitsu world championship and still be happy with a cup of coffee in the morning with your daughters, I think that is what we're really striving for. That to me is the pinnacle of being just a phenomenal, like, human being as a whole.
I see what you're saying. It's like you have a monster in your belly and you have to feed it, but you got to feed it well. So you got to take care of its diet. You got to monitor it and keep it in check too. I don't think I've always been noble in my life. I know I have been. I've many, many, many flaws. And as I get older, I see them more and more. And then you have to grow the courage if you don't have it to confront it and just admit your flaws and try to be better and stay humble, man. I think that's at least the stage I'm at in my life. And I don't know where I'll be in 10, 20 years. But right now, that's what I keep telling myself. It's just like, just be humble, just be humble. There's a while ago, I was talking to my wife about it. It's like, I don't know if I should be giving interviews anymore. I've picked so many fights with like people in Brazil and here because I'm so opinionated. And I don't know how to solve. Like if I'm not opinionated, I'm not doing my job as a historian. I feel like I'm cheating people from what I don't like to use the word truth so lightly, but what I consider to be the fact is the facts of the matter. Let's put it like that. But at the same time, when you do that, there's no way you don't come across as arrogant because you're hurting people's feelings and you're telling them things they don't want to hear, even though they're factually incorrect. So I tread this very, very narrow line between being a competent historian and speaking my mind and not being arrogant about it. I'm trying to find that balance and it's not easy, man. It's not easy.
Let me ask you a question, because this is literally the whole point of the book I'm writing. And you kind of elaborated already and you just said it's not easy. But if you could I mean, you may not be able to answer this question, but how do we have this relentless, die-hard killer instinct to just drive and crush and in the same breath be completely content with our current circumstances?
There's a movie. Um, I saw it on a plane once. I don't like movies in general. I very rarely watch. Sometimes I'll watch something called Rush, two F1 drivers. Have you seen it? It was Nicky Lauda.
I know of Rush, but I have not seen it.
It's one of the best movies I've ever seen. Whoever wrote that hit the nail on the head. And they understood competition. So they contrast two champions. They're very different. Nicky Lauda is a brainiac strategist, where James Hunt is just like the raw talent. You see that in jiu-jitsu all the time. The tactician, right? And the guy who's just like,
is that you and Marcelo?
oh yeah, no, yeah, 100%. But like, raw talent, and then the guy could be like drinking the night before and he's still just destroy everyone. Right? And the other guy was just like measuring screws to make sure they're lighter than other screws. Like he's weighing them, like that's the kind of guy Nicky Lauda was. But the interesting thing is that Nicky Lauda gets married. This is my favorite scene in the book. He gets married. He's very happy. And there's a very symbolic scene there where he's staring at a fire. And then he goes, happiness is the enemy, because he started losing his fire because he was so happy. That's what he's struggling with. So once you're content, the fire is burning out, essentially. And I remember watching that and I'm going, man, whoever wrote this truly understood a competitor's mindset, because the second year, let's say you win a UFC world title, it's very common for these guys to lose their next fight or not hold on to it very long. Very few
Yep.
people hold on to that title, man. It's very rare. GSP did, Anderson Silva did, Jose Aldo did for a minute, Mighty Mouse. Very few people, John Jones. The vast majority of champions hold on to it for like two fights, one fight.
It-
And I'm not saying that's why they lost it. If I know some suggestion, I'm just saying I think the guy that is striving for the top of the mountain has more heart than the guy who's already seen what the world looks like from the top. And for you to just look from the top and go, oh, nothing's changed in my life. And I think the reason why that happens is you're looking at the top of a mountain, like it's going to change how you see the world, or you will achieve some kind of internal utopia where everything is going to be perfect and you're going to have this deep, lasting satisfaction. And that will last 2 days. That's what my ADCC title lasted. By the third day, I was in cloud nine for like 2 days, and the third day I was like, oh, back to practice. Nothing changed. And of course, it opened many doors. So it was very positive like that. But as far as my satisfaction with myself, it went back to normal. I was still deeply unsatisfied with myself. I don't think you ever. I don't know. I don't know. I was reading. There's a very. I like to talk to old guys. Like like old guys in jujitsu, and it's like autobiographies. Like there's a very short autobiography by David Hume. You can download it online. It's very short, like 10 pages.
David who?
David Hume, and he's a great mind. There's no doubt about it. But he's so happy about life and seems to be perfectly content. And he came across to me as such someone jolly and perfectly okay with as life turned out, the way they turned out. It turned out. I hope to be jolly like that and content and be in my deathbed and one day and say, I am perfectly happy with how I live my life. I want to be content like that because I don't feel that right now. I don't feel that. I hope that changes. But I don't know, man. I don't know if that comes with age or with wisdom or, one brings the other.
I think all of it kind of comes together, but I just think that it's that's why I wanted to write the book on it, because I feel like everything in life is this interplay. It's this interplay of like, sometimes you got to be an absolute warrior and sometimes you got to be an absolute nurture loving person. And you kind of try to dance in the middle. And, you have daughters, it's like you should be able to protect them and literally kill a guy in the street and at the same time rock them to sleep. And so I've always wanted to play with that dichotomy piece because I found it very interesting in life, because that is the polarity and the paradox of this realm paradigm earth we live in. It's based on polarity. And just like, people can say whatever they want. You can't have Mother Teresa without Hitler. You just cannot. It doesn't work. This is the way the world works. And so I find it to be an interesting conundrum that I'll probably spend the rest of my life probably not solving, but write about.
It's shit to think about. I've given this a lot of thought, and I mean, maybe the mistake is to think that it's one or the other. And as a human, you are a sea of conflict and contradictions, man. You have all these opposing forces. You have all these opposing forces inside of you, and they're saying different things, different times of your life. One voice is louder during a certain time, and at a different time, the other voice is louder. But I think if you listen to them all and you balance things out, I think at the end result is the problem is when these things are off balance, or or some of these voices aren't kept in check. And you keep and you again you lose your humility at some point, and you got to keep yourself in check, and but without losing that hunger, man. I hope I stay hungry. I don't want to lose the hunger. I like to do things. I like to travel. I like to work hard. I like to write. I like to read. I like to make new friends. I have this joy, feel this joy about being alive. I do. I have my bad days like everyone else, but I know that they're going to pass. They always pass. They're bad sometimes for a week, sometimes for months. It's happened to me with years. I'm in a hole, but I know I'm going to come out eventually, and then life gets beautiful again. And I wish I had more time. That's like my biggest anxiety. It's the anxiety of not having enough time to do all the things that you got to live all the lives you
Totally.
want to live.
Exactly. I want to wrap this up with a beautiful question that kind of brings it all together here is like, because, I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs. It's called the Evolved Entrepreneur Podcast. And, you understand what it's like to be stuck, even though you're winning. And, like you said, I was happy for 3 days. If you were a high performing entrepreneur, if a high performing entrepreneur came to you and they were stuck because they were winning and on paper, but feeling empty inside, what's the first thing you'd tell them?
Maybe to look for the joy in the process itself and not hold your breath to the top of the mountain, because the world is as flat from above as it is from below, man. It doesn't change anything. It's the same world. You're the same person. You can't run from yourself. No title can shut yourself off. It's how you see yourself in the world, the people around you. Find joy. I love my kids. I find happiness. Like when I look at best moments in life, I'm always with my friends and family. Like I was just in Brazil where I got to spend like a week with my old time training partners from 20 years ago, and we're still really good friends. We all have families now, and man, I was truly, truly happy around it. Like I remember thinking, man, I don't think I can't remember the last time I was this happy. Just being around my friends, laughing, telling old stories, talking shit, training, just being around my brothers. And I remember being so, I'm like, I think this is better than anything, any achievement in jujitsu. We strive for achievement, but the real treasure is like the people I've met along the way. Like when people ask me what's been the loss of the books, what did it cost? Like I don't know, you can't factor the cost, but man, I made some amazing friends. That's the takeaway, man. The people I've met because of these books are some of the most interesting people I've ever met in my life. I would have never met them had I not read those books. So to me, the that was the treasure, man. It was not like the book itself or if it sold well or not. It was more like the friends that I made because I wrote it. That was it still is very special. These people become my best friends. I talk to them daily, and they're people I've never even met in person.
That's amazing. That is the cool part about the internet. Even though we just talked about earlier about how it's not so connected, it is really cool to have just experiences that you would just never have, you know? So, I mean, 100 years ago, you're probably never a Brazilian guy living in Vegas is never going to marry a woman from Kazakhstan, you know?
Yeah,
So that's kind of cool too.
yeah.
So, well, man, I just really appreciate you. This has been such an awesome conversation. I'm glad we got to go into your philosophy on things more than just the jujitsu because I think everyone knows a lot of that. And I just really appreciate you taking the time for me.
It's been a pleasure, Mark. And next time you're around, please stop by the gym, say hello. It's been too long.
For sure, man. I'll definitely come in. Sure.